activity I see in this room and the amount of energy I see in Jatin, it's just mind-blowing. And I think if you want to start something, I think that's the first and the foremost requirement, in my mind at least, that you have to have unbounded and unlimited supply of energy that you have to tap within yourself. That's very important. Now, I'm not here to give you a lot of gyan. I think everybody finds their own path, so to speak. But I can tell you a couple of things, or maybe 3 points that in my mind are very important. And more than me giving you the gyan, I would rather have you guys ask me questions if you haven't. Because I think that way probably you'll get much more out of this session than me just sitting here and giving a very boring, sleep-inducing lecture. Okay? Agreed? So I'll expect a lot of questions then after 10 minutes. I'll not take more than 10 minutes. So very quickly, my background is that I worked in USA for almost 12-15 years before I came back out here. I was one of the co-founder of a company called Lazy Systems, even in USA back in mid-80s. And that kind of got me going on the ideas of the startups. And then when I came here, I started another company, and after that, e-infochips I started in '95. So I'm an old duffer, but that unbounded and unlimited supply of energy is still there. I still have fun. I go out. We are about 1,900 engineers, and we do a lot of interesting work in the engineering side, all the way from chip design to the product design. Products being things like digital video recorders, set-top boxes, surveillance cameras, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much my background. Now the entrepreneurs, couple of things to keep in mind. Number one, they are always going to be short on resources. It's a given that you always will have a rough time finding either people or money. Both actually. And that's why the only thing which will come to your aid and assistance is really that energy that I talked about and the belief in you and the ability to convince. If you listen to Jatin, basically he's a sales guy. He's selling a story to his mom, he's selling another story to me, he's selling a third story to you guys. And I mean it in a good way. All of us have to be convinced about our cause. That's very important. So what's the motivation behind what you're doing is very, very critical. My personal experience is if you're doing it for money, chances are you won't go very far. And it's very fulfilling to hear that who is doing for the heck of it. That has to be the absolute reason. That I'm doing it because I'm having fun. I'm doing it because it is satisfying. I'm doing it because it's emotionally fulfilling. It's all about emotions. At the end of the day, it's not about, personally I don't think, I'm sure there are success stories out there where people made hundreds of millions of dollars, going out for money and then making money. It's always possible. But if I read the books about Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or whoever, right, all the way from Jatin and me to Bill Gates, it's a passion. Therefore, you must find out what is it that motivates you to be an entrepreneur. I think it's very, very important to know that. And you have to be absolutely brutally honest with yourself. Be up in the front of a mirror and ask that question. And be brutal to yourself in terms of honesty. That's very, very critical. Because if you can't be honest to yourself, who are you going to mislead? Who are you going to mislead? Yes. Yourself. So always remember that. Second thing, lot of us come from technology background in one form or the other. Is that accurate? Yes. And therefore we fall in love with technology. And we not necessarily think about the customer or the user. But it's very important to put the user first or the customer first. only then whatever product or services you are selling will flourish. You don't have to teach email to anybody. All the grandmothers and grandfathers and uncles and aunties, everybody learn the emails and Skype on their own. Because it solved a real problem for them. And I have done plenty of this. There is a saying that I love, that when you are a hammer, everything looks like a nail. कुछ भी देखा hammer लगाओ. And that's a very dangerous mindset. So be aware of that. So number one, what motivates you? Number two, look at the problem from customer's point of view. I can come up with a cloud-based hospital management system, for example, right? Who is going to use it? How they going to use it? In rural areas, will the bandwidth be available or not? And so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, an enterprise flourishes if it solves the business problem of the real world with a technical solution. So knowing the business pains, knowing the business problem is very, very important. If it doesn't exist, maybe you have to create the business problem first. A lot of people have done that. Notably Steve Jobs, he created a business pain. The pain might be emotional. If the next guy has iPhone, I have to have the iPhone. But you have to have that pain to solve. You go to a doctor only when you have pain. Unless he is your dad or uncle. That's a different story. But normally you go for a professional visit, not for saying, hi, I'm here. Am I right? You go only when you have pain. And then the doctor alleviates the pain, hopefully. Not all the time, but hopefully alleviates the pain. So always keep that in mind, that whatever your ideas, if you want to make sure that it succeeds in the long term, then you have to have a solid value proposition or something which solves a business problem or a customer thing. And if you can get to validate that with a potential customer, so much better. Okay. Third point I'd like to make is that it's always better to be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in an ocean. When mobiles come out, everybody wants to make a mobile. When laptops come out, everybody wants to make a laptop. When the tablets come out, everybody wants to make a tablet. But please understand that so does 500,000 other entrepreneurs, and more importantly, top 100 companies of the world. So where do we stand a chance in that? And again, I am speaking from a personal experience. There are going to be smart guys, and there might be some of you who actually make a success out of it. So everything I say here, it's not a God-given truth. These are my personal experiences and my personal opinions. Okay? So it's always better to have something which is different than others, and you can be a big fish in a small pond. And then once you grow, you can try to get in a bigger pond and play a different way. There is tons of stuff out there in terms of learning, and there are lots of books out there to help you navigate the waters and the problems and all of that. But I would rather stop here after only 3 points. Anything more than that gets down to the gutter anyway. So, or rather, have you guys ask the questions.
If I am not wrong, they just started a company in Ahmedabad in 90s.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what do you think the Gujarat position as a pure technology company? I mean, I don't think that people who are coming from the states of choose the Gujarat or say Ahmedabad as a starting a technology company. I was, after 20 years or 15-20 years, I was satisfied with the decision that you started a company in Ahmedabad.
Okay. So, everybody got the question? The question was, there are too many technology companies in Ahmedabad. The scenario is not very encouraging, and you came down to Gujarat and Ahmedabad 15 years ago. Are you happy with your decision? Is that? Yeah. So the answer is I am absolutely happy, very content, for several reasons, and I'll go through one by one. Number one, I came back from USA to Ahmedabad and Gujarat for a very specific reason of doing something in my chosen field of profession. That was my main. You know, the first thing I talked about is what is your motivation, what do you want to do, and why. You have to be very clear about that, right? So in US, I was designing microprocessors, Intel processors, and at some point in time, I started asking myself, ये 16-bit कर लिया, 32 हो जाएगा, 64-bit हो जाएगा, 128-bit हो जाएगा. There is no end to that technology, right? Is that what I want to do with my life? Or do I want to do something which is emotionally fulfilling? Just like what Jatin was talking about, right? Giving your 2 lakhs of money, that's a phenomenal sense of achievement when you do that. So I wanted to have that sense of fulfillment in life, sense of achievement. And the reason I came back to Ahmedabad was that was for my homeland. I didn't move to India or Ahmedabad or Gujarat for making loads of money. Because in the 90s you can make a lot of money in USA. Internet revolution was happening and all. And software export has not yet caught on. So I was very clear about my motivation. That I am going to go back and I want to start something in the area that I am in and give it a shot. Of course, I didn't know whether I will be successful or not. As a matter of fact, it sounded a pretty stupid idea to go and start something in technology where there is no talent available, there are no customers, there are no consultants, nothing in other words. So how are you going to grow? And that's where the first thing we talked about, the energy and conviction is very, very important to make a go of your idea. I think that's very important. So, and that's why I talk about emotion. Emotional fulfillment, what drives you?
Place is not that important.
Place is important, so it depends on your goal. Correct? If my goal is to grow a $1 billion company, it's going to be hard doing that in Ahmedabad. But can we do a 100 million? Can we do a 50 million? We have. It's doable. Takes a long time. It takes 15 years. But it's doable. But again, you have to have the persistence. You have to have the patience. You have to have that emotional reservoir to feed you energy on a daily basis. Otherwise, it's very easy to get tired and just throw it for capital. That's the most easy thing to do. Pack up the bags and go back. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you.
Please.
How did you build your initial team, and how how did you retain them in your difficult times?
With great difficulty. How did I build my initial team? With great difficulty, and that's an honest answer. Just like you sell the story to your mom, I sold the stories to the first few guys. Also, sometimes you find the right talent with a very similar mindset. And I think you have done the same thing, you and Parth and third gentleman, I'm sorry, I forgot his name. You have the same ideology and you think the same way and all of that, and that bonding happens, and then you are able to create something out of nothing, so to speak. So, out of the initial team that we formed 15 years ago, I have only 2 people left. Over a period of 15 years, probably we launched maybe 1,000 careers, and we have about 900 engineers with us. And there is a lot of satisfaction. But it is, like I said, up front, it's very, very difficult to find the talent to join somebody who is operating out of, as the Silicon Valley says, out of the garage, out of their home or whatever, right? Out of an apartment. Nobody wants to join, everybody wants the security. So that's a tough one. But you have to be persistent, and you have to work hard, and you have to find a similar, people with the similar ideas. The other thing which we did a lot differently is back in '95, the stock option program was not very well known. Even today, it's not well known in Ahmedabad. In Bangalore, it came into fad in late '90s and probably went out of fashion in the next 5-6 years. But I had seen the ESOPs working in Silicon Valley, and from day number one, we had a stock option program. A lot of people came into e-infochips and a lot of people went away. But even after that, almost 15% of the company will be held by people. If the original founders had stayed back, probably half of the company would have been owned by the people. A lot of them went to USA here and there and all of that. So all of that ESOPs went west and came back. But that partly answers your question also. How do you find the initial people? You have to sell, you have to make them, in a certain sense, partners in crime, if you will. You have to sell in the big dream, you have to dream big, and then also showing the value that stock options or the stocks can be a lot more money down the line if you succeed. There are these two gentlemen who joined with me. Probably they are worth $2 to $3 million today, sitting here in Ahmedabad. And if the initial team of 10 had said, probably we would have seen about 10 people who have made that kind of money. But that requires persistence, that requires belief.
What was the size of the team?
About the first 3-4 years, we were about 10 people.
Okay.
Now people come up from main team, core team, and they are actually going and setting up their own companies. So how you are actually tackling, because they know every core value of your company and every detail, minute details, and they are actually going to set up their own company. So how you actually tackle with all these issues?
So that's a circle of life, right? Actually, I'm happy that's happening. I just wish that they become much bigger. So I don't have the accurate count, but probably there are 12 small companies that have been born out of e-infochips. Obviously, they know our business, but it's not about, as I keep saying, right? It's about your motivation, what you want to achieve. If your goal is that I'll start a company in 3 years, somebody will acquire me, chances that you won't go too far, and that's what happened with one company. You also have to have the acumen and the execution and the ability to scale up. Unfortunately, they all are between 10 people to 20 people to 25. And that's a Gujarati entrepreneur buzz also, right? So it again depends what's your motivation, what you want to achieve, and all of that. If I'm happy with 10 people and making 60-70 lakh rupiah profit, okay, I am happy, then you'll stay at that level. But if you want to make a $20 million company, then you have to think differently, you have to think big, you have to act more professionally, you have to part with the money, all of that happens. So that's a long story, but I think there are a lot of ingredients which go in making you a successful person. Success itself is very fuzzy word in my mind. What do you call a success? They will be very clear about that.
So what's your vision after next 5 or 10 years? Like how you want to grow? Is there any particular level you have actually finalized for yourself that you want to reach to that level, or is keep coming and going?
Okay, so there are two parts to that answer. One is what the industry calls a soft answer, which is a larger, longer lasting vision. So there is these other two founders that I talked about and a bunch of other guys. When we started, we sat down for 2 days and said, what do we want to be? So we came out with a vision statement of the company. Now, for startup, I don't think all of this is necessary, by the way. Once you get to a certain level, then you can do all of that. But the vision statement becomes a guiding compass, if you will. So we said that we want to be an innovative company, innovative technology company that transforms the society by creating leaders and generating and distributing wealth. So that's an overall guidance that we want to be innovative, we want to be in technology, we want to transform the society one way or the other, And that part is yet to come after 15 years. We do some of it, but not to the extent I would like to see. And create a leader. So internally we have a lot of training programs on how to manage, how to be a leader, soft skills, life skills, all of that. So that is at the cloud level, right? This is true regardless of whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Then we also have defined core values. Core values are the values which are going to stay in place whether you are there or not. And again, this helps when you achieve a certain mass and momentum and size, not necessarily for the startups. But core values again define the behavior of the organization and the people. So the first core value we have is a customer first. Second core value we have is a disciplined execution. Third core value we have is embracing impossible challenges. Fourth core value we have is self-learning. You continuously have to learn till you die. That's what I believe. All of us have to learn. The minute we stop learning, we are dead. And the fourth is serving the society with technology. These are the 5 core values. So again, they are not time variant. They remain invariables throughout the time. And after that, there are short-term, relatively short-term goals that what we want to achieve next year. So for example, next year we're trying to shoot, today we are about $40 million, $200 crore ka hai. In 2.5 years, we want to reach about 100 million, or 550 crores. And our planning happens, ground reality planning happens based on those numbers. Does that answer your question? Yes?
I have a question on the continuation of what you just mentioned, that you are 40 million and going to 100 million. So
Numbers guy.
Numbers guy. So when don't you look up to companies like say TI or AMD and say that how can I make my company a multi-billion-dollar company, so it becomes like a Texas Instruments or an AMD of India, which on an overall scale will bring a lot of employment as well as give a greater return to the society as well. So
Absolutely. Just for clarification, we are in services business. We are not in a product business. TI and AMD and all these guys are doing products. That's number one. Number two, we don't do only semiconductor, but we do the complete product design. So 1/3 of our business is chip design services, but 2/3 business is developing products that I talked about, right? The set-top box or a digital video recorder, surveillance cameras, pure software products, and things like that. That is almost 70% of the business. Okay. What you said that don't you? So I'll rework your question as it. Why don't you become a billion-dollar company? You'll generate far more employment and the benefits for the society. Am I right?
you move towards that
Yeah.
more aggressively with more energy,
Sure.
as you mentioned, unlimited energy.
No, you're absolutely right, and I wish that I had 10 guys like me to move at a faster rate. But if you do some back of the envelope math, if you keep growing at 30% or 35%, which is not bad, you'll get to 100 million in 2 years. If you want to do $1 billion, that's a lot of people, a lot of training. Other thing is that we are in a very niche market. It's not an IT business. We are, it's not doing the configuration on SAP or CRM systems where you employ 200 engineers or 200 specialist SAP people doing the configuration of the SAP system. So the scalability is not to the tune of Infosys or TCS. That's one fundamental difference. But the value add to the customer is phenomenal. And you also develop the capability to develop the products, unlike SAP configuration. But unfortunately, the scalability in terms of growing to 100,000 people is very, very tough. Just to give you a figure, the whole of India would have about 28,000 chip designers. After all these years, right? India started doing chip design back in mid 90s. So in 20 years, 15, 20 years, actually 88, TI, Texas Instruments, started doing the first design center. So after all these years, only 28,000 chip design engineers. By the way, out of which 14,000 are fresh graduates. So getting to 100,000 is a difficult proposition, but at the same time, we are going full guns, whatever you can do.
So do you think of revisioning your vision to reach that goal? So getting into something else which will reach you towards that goal. Do you ever think of changing that vision you started with to reach to that goal?
Excellent question.
And I wanted to add something on that. Yes. So when you start up, you don't have many resources. But when you reach to a certain level, you have a lot of resources. So you can dedicate certain time, certain other resources to achieve that thing. So is there something else in your mind that you really wanted to do it, and now you are in a position to do that?
One by one. So, I stated my vision statement to be an innovative technology company. It doesn't say it has to be in electronics. It could be in solar energy, it could be in wind energy, whatever. And Jatin, you are absolutely right. You get that itch when you have a lot of cash reserves, right? You have to show करते हैं इसको जल्दी बनाते हैं $1 billion. And we tried actually. We tried two things. One is what I call the system integration business or solution business. And the way it works is that if you have government of Gujarat as a customer, then you put the complete solution, including hardware, software, commissioning of the cables, systems, cameras, whatever it takes, right? Data centers, and your revenue will zoom up. Unfortunately, we are a very clean company. We don't bribe anybody. I'm stating that flat out. We don't give bribes to anybody. We tried that for 2 years and gave up. Okay. We also started another company called Smart Guard Systems, which would sell the surveillance cameras as products. So that's a products business. And I quickly learned that building products is easier than selling products. And that's where my statement about when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. We have 900 engineers, right? They all think that design karna hai, kar lenge kya.
You need to develop by yourself. You need to sell your things. So how did you manage? Because we are having only 24 hours a day.
With great difficulty. When I don't have I don't have any better answer, I say with great difficulty, but there is a lot of truth in it. That's also an excellent question, because a lot of times we are not very good with our time management. Time management and prioritization, these two are very, very critical for success. We can't do things in alphabetical order, but we should not. We must be able to identify the choking point and attack that mercilessly till the problem gets solved. Earlier days, sales was a problem for us, and I used to spend almost 7 months in USA pounding the pavement, as they say, like a sales guy. That's what it takes, and that's what you do. Currently, recruitment is a problem. We have so much business, we are not able to execute. We will probably add another 700 engineers next year if we get them. But it's a big problem, right? You are talking about hiring 2 qualified electronics engineers or software engineers who are good with the operating system, drivers, and fundamental stuff. Not too many of them out there. So I'm focusing on resourcing and recruitment and not looking at sales. Time management is very, very important, I think. And frankly speaking, right now it's more of a problem than it was at that time. As you grow bigger and bigger, the demand on your time is going to be more and more, and you have to ration that, or you have to be very careful in terms of where you spend your time. But I really don't have a silver bullet answer for you. The only thing I can say is that you really have to plan as much as you can ahead of time, and be very conscious about where you are spending your time. If you are spending your time in haggling with a vendor about 5 rupees or 50 rupees, maybe you are not spending your time wisely. And a lot of people make that mistake, especially all of us, Ahmedabadis and the others. Kaise chalega? It's not me.
I think
But sir, that does helps in the initial.
The cost every which way. You take the cheapest hotels and you drive the clunker cars. When you are in USA, you do all of that, right? Because you rent a car and you stay in a hotel and all of that. And you can stay in a $125 hotel, or you can stay in a motel.
35.
Yeah, $55, $60, $70 hotel.
So finding the first few customers is always a tough story being the startup.
Absolutely.
So,
Please tell me about it.
How did you manage? So, what was your magic stick?
Okay, so product business is different than service business. So are you talking about product or you're talking about service? Then I'll answer accordingly.
Yours was service, right?
Yeah.
So how did you manage?
So then it's easy because service, because I've done it, that's why it's easy. See, service business is always built upon references, the kind of work you have done, and relationships. If you have known people, so by the way, very interesting thing I did. शुरू में धंधा नहीं मिलता था, like you said, कहाँ से लाए? So what are the other companies doing? What did Infosys do? What did there was a company called Mastek in Bombay, right? So I actually took out a bunch of IIM guys as interns, and we did a market research on how the service companies flourish. Where do they get their business? Invariably, 20 companies were interviewed in research. All of them in their interview said that it's through personal relationships. If you know people who are going to trust you, who have comfort and confidence that if they give you something, you will deliver, that's how you start. Your first piece of business, your second piece of business, third piece of business. You take their video testimonials and go into a similar size or similar type companies and replicate the success. Product has a different formula.
What's the formula for the product?
So you have a lot of product guys today.
Yeah, service is a ugly business. Product is different because in product the competition is going to be, see, couple of things. If you look at the products are going to be either hockey stick, they burn money in the beginning and then you are successful, or you go bankrupt. This is what happens in USA. Here you can hang on for a little bit longer because the staying power is much higher because you are spending in rupees, but nonetheless it will happen. Service company, you don't grow like a hockey stick, so no very phenomenal successes overnight. It's slow and steady. And by the same token, if you don't do well, then you have a tendency to go down very gradually or marginally. And in product business, the reason the hockey stick happens is because competition is going to be absolutely fierce. Product is going to stand on its own merit, not on the relation. In the sales cycle, relationships are still very important, but product has to sell itself to a certain degree. In service business, you have to basically sell your people, but competency, but more than that, yourself, right? That whether the guy is able to trust you or not. Given that, to be successful in product, number one, big fish in a small pond. So choose an area where there are not too many competitors. Number two, create the differentiators. Be sure that your product, your portal or whatever is somewhat different than other people. That's very, very important. Don't be a me too guy. Otherwise you will struggle for the next 3 years or 5 years. And number three, make sure that the first point I said, that the customer, consumer, whoever, sees value in it. If you look at Flipkart, it might be a very minute point that we'll do COD. But that changed the whole game. Because that's where the customers saw the value. For you, it might be very easy. Or you may not even see value in there. For you, doing the WebSphere and WebLogic based Funko design might be more important, but not for the customer. So those are the three things. Yeah. How much time do we have?
Idea. But after launching it, we find that we are having some, bigger visions and other ideas that are, that can be more have great visionaries than our idea. So shall we move over to that or stick to that our idea?
A lot of people say that I should be the professor teaching people. But I have a lot of advice, free advice. At a philosophical level, I believe that one should not be afraid of anything. Never operate out of fear. If you have to, and even in product business that happens, right? Intel cannibalizes their own processors. That whole process is called cannibalization. When you are eating your own profits by offering a newer, faster, better version. Now, what you are seeing is slightly different, but the fear factor may be the same. Correct? So never operate out of fear, number one. Number two, if you are good at something and it's generating cash, never leave that. Never ever, honest to God, never ever leave anything which is generating cash for you. Do whatever you want to do on top of that, but if something is generating cash, never ever leave that. So important. Okay? And then on top of that you can build extra whatever you want to build. Am I making sense? Did I answer your question? You are abandoning that and starting something new while it's generating cash. If I were in your position, I will not do that. Let me put it that way. Now it's clear? Did I answer your question?
It might be possible in more cash.
That's why I said to do anything is possible in the world. A lot of people fall into this trap that I can do it. The question is not whether you can do it or not. The question is whether will I do it. The minute you say I will do it, there is a big difference between I can do it and I will do it. And especially all the entrepreneurs must understand that difference very clearly in their mind. Okay?
Very successful entrepreneur setting up something, either incubate someone in their offices or become an angel investor or something like that. Do you have something in your mind?
And I said with great difficulty. So, by the way, I have done that. Out of the company, we have invested $250,000, $500,000 here and there in half a dozen different companies.
So there is some chance for some of us.
I'll be very clear and unequivocal. Right now, really, there is no time whatsoever in getting involved. Sorry about that.
Sir,
Last question.
in your company, like when you will move on?
Okay, so that question is okay. My experience is that first of all, there is always a raging debate whether the leaders are born or whether you can acquire leadership as a quality, which is a very fundamental question. My view, this is my personal opinion, I think you can acquire leadership as a quality. You don't have to be born with that. That's point number one. Point number two, you can teach people only those people who want to learn. Now this sounds very silly and simple, but trust me, in real life there are a lot of implications of this. Having said that the leadership can be acquired, people can be trained to become the leaders. There are certain set of things that can be done, which will turn them into successful leaders. Leading from the front is always very important, at least to me in my mind. That you must have your hands dirty, you must be hands-on, and you must be in front of the troops, not behind the troops. But that's a long discussion. In 30 seconds, whatever I can say, I have said it. So leadership is all about leading from the front in my mind. Leadership is about solving the problem. Leadership is about motivating people, and leadership is about showing the path. And all of these are acquirable. You can acquire them as quality. It will take a long time, but it's doable. A lot of these, without the background, sounds very arbitrary, esoteric, out in the cloud kind of thing. But any of you want some advice, I'll be more than happy to discuss the advice. Not an issue. It will be my pleasure to mentor some of you or whoever wants to be mentored. Okay? Thank you very much for inviting me.